Due to technical difficulties behind the scenes, most of the game footage comes courtesy of the World of Lawn Play's YouTube channel. Link to the Lawn Play is in the description.
Oh hey J2N4, what's up? Don't worry, I'm actually reviewing the game as we speak. In fact, why don't you come over here and join me? It's not, I promise. Now come over here. Everyone, this is J2N4. Anyway, yes, I promised it, and now I'm delivering that promise, so here it is. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ratchet Season.
Following the success of the Spyro the Dragon trilogy, developers Insomniac Games were preparing for the next generation of PlayStation. They set off to work directly with Sony and free themselves from the confines of Universal. However, this meant they had to say goodbye to Spyro, similar to Naughty Dog's departure from the Crash series. What they ended up doing next became a global phenomenon, one of the most iconic video games in the history of gaming. In 2002, Ratchet & Clank was born.
Well, I'm glad you asked, J2, because today we are going to delve into the world of Ratchet & Clank and see what all the fuss is about.
The story sees a young Lombax named Ratchet who is working on his ship. Meanwhile, a little defect robot from the planet Core 2 escapes his factory and flees using one of their ships. The ship eventually gets shot down and crash lands on planet Veldin, Ratchet's homeworld. Ratchet goes to investigate the wreckage, and the little robot informs Ratchet about the main antagonist, Supreme Executive Chairman Alonzo Drek, and his plan to take pieces of other planets to make a new one due to the pollution of his homeworld. So the duo set off on a quest to find Captain Quark and aid him in his battle against Drek. It's a pretty basic story, but nonetheless it is effective. This is when platformers were leaning a little more towards storytelling. Insomniac did it with Spyro, they're doing it again here. Let's talk about the combat, since that is the main selling point for this game. The combat is really satisfying, and switching between weapons is super smooth. By holding triangle, you have quick access to all the weapons you have at your disposal. You can also customize what weapons and gadgets you want in your quick select. It would be great though if the game pauses whenever you pull up the quick select, so you don't feel pressured to pick a weapon in the heat of the moment. It would also be nice to have a button I could hold to strafe while using a weapon. On Planet Kerwan, you purchase a helipack for Clank, allowing you to glide in the air. Later in the game, you get a thruster pack upgrade, which grants you the ability to ground pound, a move that gets completely forgotten about. Okay, so this game does have a strafe. If you double tap R1 with the thruster pack, you'll hover over where you're standing. Then you can hold either R2 or L2 to strafe. This is a bit backwards and, like the ground pound, is completely forgotten about. Every new planet you discover allows you to purchase a new weapon. You can purchase other things from bystanders by giving them bolts, which are the game's main currency. And oh boy, shit's expensive in this game. You will most likely not be buying every weapon during your first playthrough. This is honestly great replay value, which is what a lot of people loved about this game. Now, how is the backtracking balanced? Quite well, actually. In this game, backtracking isn't necessarily required, but rather encouraged. In most instances, you wouldn't even know. Why is that, you might ask? Well, let me tell you. In this game, you get to also play as Clank, and his style of gameplay is different from Ratchet's. Upon your first visit to Orxon, the air is toxic, so Clank has to go solo. When you get the O2 mask and revisit Orxon, you get to explore more of the planet. And when you get to this area, check it out!
The air isn't toxic.
This is really cool. It's something not many game developers experimented with at the time, and Insomniac nailed it perfectly.
Don't worry, J2, I'm getting there.
This game also rewards you for performing cool stunts. These are called skill points. These are basically trophies before they became a thing. There are plenty to go around, and they also unlock cool stuff. Some of them are pretty simple, but most of them are rather cumbersome. You can also collect gold bolts located in many hidden areas on each planet. Gold bolts can actually be used for purchasing gold weapons. More on those later. But that's not all. This game also provides different styles of gameplay, like turret defense and hoverboard racing. Speaking of which, after winning the second race, you become a Gadgetron employee, but you can't get the discount until you've been employed for 2 years.
Let's keep that in mind. It may pop up again in a future game. No.
Anyway, one minor gripe I have about this game is the cutscenes. Not necessarily the cutscenes themselves, but rather the lack of music in most of them. The last 2 in-game cutscenes and every FMV has music, so what's the excuse here?
I mean, just imagine me cutting the review back to me without the music continuing like usual. This conversation would be quite awkward, wouldn't it?
Anyway, this game also has bosses, ranging from a Blargian Snagglebeast to Captain Quark to Chairman Drek. During the battle, Drek reveals that he's only building new worlds to net more profit from how much space in the galaxy he owns. So once the new world is built, he'll pollute this one and repeat the process until he owns every square inch of the galaxy. But first, Veldin needs to be destroyed because it is occupying the ideal orbit Drex wants for his world. So he pushes the button and the countdown begins. After defeating Drek, his world-ending weapon, the Deplanetizer, gets flipped around to aim at his new world. Ratchet then presses the button to destroy Drek's world with him on it. Ratchet then leaves Clank, only to come back and help him fix his arm. And after putting up with everybody's foolish antics, as well as Quark betraying the duo, Ratchet and Clank end up becoming best buds. And that's the game. Or is it? After beating the game, you get the option to enter Challenge Mode, aka New Game Plus. In this replaythrough of the game, enemies are a little tougher and gold weapons can be purchased using gold bolts. And a fuck ton of regular bolts. Seriously, if you even want one of these weapons, expect to grind for bolts. A lot. Although there is a glitch you can perform with the Taunter that allows you to get an infinite number of bolts from the Blackwater City hoverboard race. It requires you to know how to get out of bounds, however. Speaking of Blackwater City, this is also where you get the most iconic weapon in the entire series. The weapon in question is the Rip Ya a New One, or Rhino for short. It is the best and most OP weapon in the game. It's what the cool kids say, the meta. But man, is it satisfying to have in your possession once you purchased it. Ratchet & Clank is a platforming game that perfectly blends with weapon-based combat. It was an intriguing change of pace. The combat does have its flaws, but it is the first game. Most of what I would comment on would eventually be fixed and tweaked in future games.
No, I don't think so. I'm saving that for another time. Plus, I'm sure they can figure that out just by watching the gameplay.
For a 2002 PS2 game, this game looks great, the soundtrack, which I didn't even touch on, is beautiful, the characters are so memorable, especially the plumber, the controls are incredibly solid, and the story is well told. It isn't a snooze fest like a lot of modern games. If there's one thing I learned from watching a certain game reviewer from Down Under, it's that making a brilliant game is as easy as replicating what Naughty Dog did. Needless to say, Insomniac did that and so much more. As a result, this was an instant fucking success. So, I'm giving Ratchet & Clank a 7 out of 10. The tight controls and incredible graphics of this game, capped off with a neat story and a banging soundtrack, has this series off to a great start.
All the pieces fell into place for a sequel, which is exactly what fans got in 2003 with Ratchet Clank Going Commando, which in my opinion is the best sequel to a video game ever and easily worthy of a 9 out of 10. Well, J2, you and everybody else watching this video will have to wait until the next Ratchet Season episode. For now, I hope you enjoyed today's review. If you did, drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell, and don't forget to share the video with your friends. And until next time, this is Junior Nitro saying, thank you all for watching, and have a quarktastic day.
Skip it up and down.